Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om, sir.
Glad to see so many people. I know I messaged in the middle of the morning about class because I was jet lagged and I slept by, I don't know, 7 o'clock. I was intending to message and I fell asleep. Next thing I know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. So then I was checking whether people have seen the message or not. And so a lot of you have woken up early in the morning, Brahma Muhurta, and seen the message. So I was glad. Good.
A lot of us get up early in the morning, but don't put on the phone on.
Yeah, I didn't see your. So good. Okay, let's start. ॐ ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 Welcome back to Vedanta Treatise. We had started in the previous class the discussion on the states of consciousness, the waking, dream, and deep sleep states. We all go through three states of consciousness at any point of time. We are in any one of these three states. Currently, we are in the waking state, experiencing the waking world as the waker. And no sooner than we fall asleep, we enter either the dream state and experience the dream world as the dreamer, or experience deep sleep as the deep sleeper. So we had just started that discussion. Before we continue, take up any questions if there are. Are there any questions?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
So, the use of the word on page 204, the pure consciousness conditioned by the causal body. So, the use of the word conditioned here, and that your last, again in the same paragraph, that your real self is the unconditioned consciousness. So I would want to understand the difference between why this is called conditioned and why the consciousness is.
Good question. I'll just highlight the portion Rashmiji is talking about. One second. The pure consciousness conditioned by the deep sleeper, conditioned by the causal body, becomes the deep sleeper, and your real self is the unconditioned consciousness. You're referring to these two lines, right? Okay. So what is the question is, what is the meaning of the word conditioned and unconditioned in this context? So the use of the word conditioned refers to restricted, refers to contained, right? That's one way in which you can understand it. Your pure consciousness contained, restricted, conditioned by the causal body becomes the deep sleeper. The pure consciousness expressing through the causal body, functioning through the causal body, enlivening the causal body, these are all synonyms, the way you can think of it. So the pure consciousness enlivening the causal body is the deep sleeper. Who is the deep sleeper? The deep sleeper is consciousness plus causal body. Let's take a step back to talk about this concept of the bodies, right? Okay. I want to use the classic whiteboard. Okay. You able to see the screen? The whiteboard? Oops. Why is it like this? Okay. You have three layers of the bodies. Refer to the previous chapters where we talked about the causal body, the subtle body, and the gross body, or the panchakoshas, the Anandamaya kosha, layered by the Manomaya and Vijnanamaya kosha, and then the outer layers of the Pranamaya kosha and the Annamaya kosha. Recall that discussion, right? So he's linking the states of consciousness to the panchakoshas when he's talking about the state of deep sleep. Now, so we have three bodies. When you go back to that discussion, we have three bodies. We have the causal body, the subtle body, and the gross body. That's quite annoying. I can't move these things, is it? I can. The causal body, the subtle body, and the gross body. The causal body is like, let me change the color to that. The causal body is like a seed. The subtle body is like a seedling or a sapling. And the gross body is like a plant or a tree, a full-blown plant or a tree. The same seed at a different stage of its maturity, at a different stage of its evolution, at a different stage of its growth, at a different stage of its manifestation, is either the sapling, the seedling, or a full-blown plant or tree. So the causal body is nothing but unmanifest vasanas. So what is the causal body composed of? Like you say, the gross body, what is it composed of? It's composed of the organs of perception, the organs of action, the hands and feet and all these visible entities that you have. What is the subtle body composed of? The subtle body is composed of the mind, the intellect, the various aspects of the mind and the intellect. You can talk more exhaustively about that. But what does the causal body consist of? The causal body, I want to use a different color just to express this. A causal body consists of unmanifest vasanas. That's what the causal body is. It's just vasanas in their unmanifest states. Means there's no expression, there's no manifestation. When you think of physics, you can think of it as potential energy. A body with potential energy is one in which the energy is not manifest, it's potential, it's possible. Now that unmanifest vasanas, the moment there's a change of state of consciousness, they partially manifest in the dream state and they become fully manifest in the waking state through the gross body. And because you have a subtle and gross body in the waking state, because you have a full body in the waking state, your vasanas are able to fully manifest. In the subtle bodies, the same vasanas are partially manifest. And in the causal body, that is nothing but unmanifest vasanas. Now, the consciousness enlivening merely the causal body, it creates what is called the deep sleeper, experiencing the deep sleep state of consciousness. Consciousness plus causal body gives deep sleeper plus deep sleep. Deep sleeper experiencing deep sleep. Consciousness plus subtle body gives dreamer experiencing the dream. And consciousness conditioned through the gross body, conditioned by the gross body, consciousness expressing through the gross body creates the waker experiencing the waking state. please recall, causal body is contained within the subtle body. Subtle body is contained within the gross body. You remember that, you always remember that Pancha Kosha, that diagram. Within the Annamaya Kosha is the Pranamaya, Vijnanamaya, Manomaya, and the Anandamaya. So when I use the word gross body, it contains the subtle and the causal body. When I use the word subtle body, it contains the causal body. So when there is only causal body, consciousness plus causal body is deep sleeper. Consciousness plus subtle body is dreamer. And consciousness plus gross body is waker. Another word, so on the one hand, conditioned means restricted by, constricted by, or limited to, right? Another way in which you can think of the term conditioning is the misidentification. The consciousness conditioned by the gross body becomes the waker. When I say conditioned by, it means you mistaken the consciousness for the gross body. In the waking state right now, when you say, I am awake, what do you generally refer to? You're not referring to your consciousness. You're saying, yeah, this physical body, this form, this individual is awake. What is it actually? It's consciousness plus gross body. The consciousness is the enlivening principle enabling the gross body to function. Consciousness is that adhar, the substratum upon which the gross body is functioning. It's like when I add color to water. I add color to water. I add black color to water. You call it Coke. You call it Pepsi. Water conditioned by black color is Coke. It loses its essential identity. You forget it for what it is. It's essentially water. It gets a new name and form. It acquires a nama rupa. Conditioning. So this is what the various ways in which you can understand the term conditioning. What's important for you to understand is, in each state, it is, who is the deep sleeper? The deep sleeper is not just the causal body, it is consciousness plus the causal body. Who is the dreamer? Who is the dreamer? The dreamer is not just the subtle body, it is the consciousness plus the subtle body. Who is the waker? Consciousness plus the gross body. You remove the gross body, what remains is the consciousness. You remove the subtle body, what remains is the consciousness. You remove the causal body, what remains is the consciousness. You remove the conditioning, what remains is the consciousness. Now you can't do it in the other states of consciousness. You don't have that discretion. You don't have that capacity while you are dreaming or deep sleeping. This is something you can only achieve in the waking state. You can only make sense of all these things in the waking state. Your buddhi is only sufficiently developed to take up this activity in the waking state. That's sadhana, deconditioning yourself from your gross body. Too much conditioning is ego. When the accent is on the body and not the consciousness. What is ego? What is individuality? When the accent falls on the individual body and not the consciousness enlivening it. Every being is consciousness plus the gross body. You are consciousness plus your gross body. I am consciousness plus my gross body. When my accent falls on the consciousness, I am spiritual. When my accent falls on the body, my body being distinct from your body, I'm egoistic. That's what ego is. So the greater the conditioning, the greater the ego. The lesser the conditioning, the less the ego.
But
So
isn't that a fact that my body is different from your body?
Yeah, it is a fact.
So that ego is very natural.
No one's saying it's not natural. No one's saying it's not natural, but the extent to which it is accentuated, to that extent, it only creates problems, nothing else. It's not a good or a bad thing. Secondly, here we are talking about some. This is a it's a metaphysical concept. We are talking about an idea out here, only to convey the point that there is a distinction between the body and the consciousness. There's the distinction between spirit and matter. There's a distinction between Atman and your material equipments. That's all we're trying to highlight out here. See,
the
the when you learn to make a distinction between the two, half the battle is won. When you learn to make a distinction between the two, I am spirit plus matter, half the battle is won. Rarely can you be egoistic if you remember that.
Can you elaborate on this?
Means it's an awareness that your material equipments are just an aspect of you, a temporary part of you. The reason we the reason we are unable to, or the reason we turn egoistic, is because we attribute the equipments to be the be all and end all of us. We attribute our mental capabilities, our material capabilities, our physical capabilities to be the be all and end all of us. And in that moha, in that delusion, we begin to think it is permanent.
उसका कारण है कि हमको दिखता वही है ना.
एब्सोल्युटली. अब हम अपनी दृष्टि तो बढ़ा रहे हैं, और क्या कर रहे हैं हम अपनी
तो
दृष्टि ही बढ़ा रहे हैं.
वो दृष्टि वहां
अब
जा क्यों नहीं रही है?
अब अब देखिए 10 दिन क्लास नहीं हुए इसलिए शायद नहीं जा रही है. अब वापस क्लास करेंगे बार बार तो शायद वापस आ जाएगी. हाँ. देखिए
नहीं,
अब
वो क्या होता है, वो दृष्टि ना बहुत जल्दी भूल जाती है. वेरी फास्ट वी फॉरगेट इट.
देखिए ज्ञान जो है ना, ज्ञान इज जस्ट अनदर क्रच. हाँ. मेरी किसी से बहस हो रही थी अभी अमेरिका में, because this is not an academically rigorous text. Whatever we are saying, it's not academically rigorous. We're not interested in scholarly comparing different texts and all these things. We're trying to understand some very simple ideas, right? Point is, through a regular study and reflection upon these ideas, it gives us another way of looking at things. It gives us another way of understanding what is the nature of things and objects and people, what is the nature of my own thoughts and feelings, what is the nature of my being. So if you argue that these thoughts and ideas are not helping at all, then there's no point. Right? And as I always say, ki Shravana can only take you that far. I'm trying through each and every class, any teacher is trying through each and every class to convey maybe the same subject in a different way. मैं घूम फिरा करके क्या ले आया, 10 मिनट मैंने समझाया, घूम फिरा करके I brought the topic back to its spirit plus matter. Conditioning is nothing but spirit conditioned by matter. That's all it is. It's a different way of looking at it, right? Idea is through repetitive, study of the same, because it's a very subtle topic, and some amount of reflection upon it, it stays with you. It stays with you. So, coming back to the point, हम अपनी दृष्टि बढ़ा रहे हैं. It gives you a new way of looking at what is this Veka, and specifically with regards to the study of Vedanta as a philosophy, the study of to understand the some of the perhaps the most essential concepts of metaphysics in Vedanta. You have to understand and appreciate the concept of the three states of consciousness. It's very easy to misunderstand it. So that's why we are talking about it in such particular detail. Three states of consciousness is nothing but consciousness manifesting through the three bodies. Consciousness manifesting simply through the causal body when subtle and gross body are absent. That state is called deep sleep. So you think of this entire phenomenon of creation as the rising and falling of vasanas. When you are asleep, it is just the causal body. The causal body going into some partial manifestation, and there's no grossness, it's only sukshma, it's only subtle, some partial manifestation, that's a dream phenomenon. That's a dream. It's a very loose state of consciousness, state of existence. It's not true for you, it's not true for me, but it's true for the dreamer. For the dreamer who was dreaming, it was actually happening. And when there's a little more structure, there's sthula, it's gross, there's a waking world, fully manifest. Think of it as a wave, rising and falling, rising and falling. Every day it rises from its unmanifest state, from its avyakt state of deep sleep into the full manifestation of the waking state, and then falls again. Day in, day out, day in, day out. This same concept is extended into reincarnation. What is death? Death is nothing but another deep sleep. A deep sleep from which you don't come back into the same gross body. That's it. What is life? Life is you going through you going through deep sleep, dream waking, assuming that when you fall into deep sleep, you come back into the same waking state. You go to sleep as Yashu, you wake up as Yashu. Death is nothing but going to sleep as Yashu, waking up as someone else. Same vasanas, slightly different vasanas, some other pool of vasanas from your own. What's it called? Sanchit. From your own Sanchita vasanas. So you can extend this concept which you're talking about. It serves as a metaphysical base for the entire philosophy. But as you study this, it gives you a different way of looking at things. It gives you a different way of relating to your own life. It gives you a different way of relating to death. Every time someone dies in our culture, so just let me complete. Every time someone passes in our culture, we put the Bhagavad Gita on top. Some verses. 9 out of 10 times they put chapter 2.
Nainam Chindanti Shastrani.
Nainam chindasi shastrani, nainam dahati pavakah, nachainam. So what is the meaning of that? Is this? We are simply trying to convey the philosophy behind these subtle thoughts. and as a result of which it gives you a different way of looking at what is the nature of reality, what is the nature of existence. I'm not asking you to accept it blindly. I'm not asking you to take it to be true. At least consider it. So, coming back, conditioning means Atman plus causal body makes the deep sleeper. But you don't know the deep sleeper to be the Atman. It's conditioned. It's deluded as the individual causal body.
But sir, that means at death,
Hmm.
sorry, that means at death, you said the vasanas are asleep, in deep sleep. That means that in consciousness, the total, there is vasanas in the world. I mean, in not the living world, but in the what you call unconditional, the spirit. There are vasanas floating around because each one had vasanas and you're dead. But those
Yeah.
vasanas don't die. They are there because they manifest when you take a rebirth.
I'll take a second to to talk about what is. I mean, you use the term floating around.
No, I mean, sorry.
What is the meaning of floating around? Because I mean, it's a good question because this is how you think about it, right? Now people talk about bhuta. People talk about preta. People talk about some, and this is where your horror movies and everything come from, right? In that sense, what is a bhuta? A ghost, right? An entity that lacks a gross body. An entity that lacks a gross body is a ghost, which is why across all across all cultures, and I'm not saying ghosts are real or not real. I don't know. I don't want to. It doesn't matter. But you'll see the concept of a ghost entering someone's body. Uh, in every but the point is, where do someone should think about it critically? Where do ghosts reside? Because if they don't have a gross body, they don't exist in this gross world. This gross world is a sum total of gross bodies. This gross world is part of the gross body. So when you use the term floating around, there is vasanas floating around. No, there are no vasanas floating around. Vasanas manifest is this gross world. There's no ethereal vasanas floating around. Similarly, there are no ghosts floating around. So this world comes out of vasanas. This world is a manifestation of vasanas, just as a tree is a manifestation of the seed. Now, in a tree, you won't find seeds floating around. When the seed becomes a tree, the vasana becomes this world, right? So, when you think of vasanas, there is no physicality to them. Just as there is no physical world in the deep sleep state. It's worth thinking about in that sense. And yes, absolutely, when you think of a deep sleeper, it is nothing but total vasanas. It is nothing but the possibility, what the deep sleeper can grow into, just as a seed is a possibility of what it can grow into. Now the contents of the seed will determine what kind of plants emerge. Similarly, the content of the vasanas, the nature of the vasanas, the kind of vasanas you have, will determine the kind of being that emerges, right? So, but it's worth thinking about. There's no vasanas as such floating around, but when this manifestation folds back, when this vyakti becomes avyakt, there's another way to think about it. You are a vyakti. Why are you a vyakti? Because you are vyakt, you are manifest. When this vyakti becomes avyakt, temporary avyakt is sleep, permanent avyakt is Even in that sense, it's not permanent because then a new Vyakti is born. But as far as this Vyakti is this individual is concerned, there's a permanent Avyakt. So when you become Avyakt, you go into the state of unmanifest vasanas. And then there'll be another manifestation. This process will continue. So long as you have vasanas, this procession of rise and fall, of ebb and flow will continue.
So you only become avyakt when you emerge with the Lord or the Spirit. When
No,
there is
you become Avyakt.
Permanent temple.
You're talking about a permanent. You're talking about a when your vasanas are completely exhausted.
That's the
I wouldn't. That's when you end this cycle. That begs the question: how do you permanently exhaust the vasanas? That's sadhana. Sadhana is nothing but burning your vasanas, just as you burn camphor to reveal the face of the Lord. In a temple, in a dark temple, you burn camphor to reveal the light of the Lord. And as the camphor burns with brilliance, the deity is unveiled. Similarly, you burn vasanas to reveal the Lord within you, the Atman within you. In the first class of the Mundaka Upanishad, my first class in the ashram, the first words of Swami Parthasarathi, he said, all theory exists to pacify the mind. All theories exist to pacify the mind. All of these, what we have talked about in the last half an hour, are theories. Hoping to pacify your mind. Because ultimately the truth is beyond words, beyond theories, beyond concepts. The truth is what you have to experience. And only a calm, meditative mind can experience the truth. So use theory to pacify your mind. Use theory to battle and defeat the onslaught of vasanas, of desires. Use theory to turn inward. But ultimately, we can't explain this. It's not explicable. It's not understandable. God is not an object of thought, not an object of perception. You have to realize it. You have to become it. But use these concepts to turn inward. Use these concepts to turn introvert, to turn suspect of what is it that I'm chasing. What are these forces of thoughts, of desires that are constantly pulling me from one direction to another direction, from one experience to another experience, endlessly? What is it that I'm looking for? That's the purpose of these ideas, to turn you introvert, to
Control your react. Like somebody was telling me that if when you control your reactions to everything that happens around you, like that really helps you to, slowly, because now the awareness is coming. Like I could react at the like a spark. Every second somebody is critical. The first thing you do is you defend yourself. And somebody was saying that the first step towards not a step, it's like a baby step, is first to just stop reacting.
Yeah. Half the times you don't react. When you don't react, half the things are resolved then and there. Some things will require your response. But the impulsive reactions are generally counterproductive. So yes, when I say it'll turn you introvert, it'll turn you inward, it'll make you less impulsive, less reactive, better at responding, better at understanding, better at internalizing, better at assessing, all these things. Okay,
Thank you.
we'll continue from where we left off. You were talking about the three states of consciousness, and you were starting to talk about the deep sleep state, how the deep sleep is a state of continuity, state of vastness, but it is rarely studied. Nobody talks about the deep sleep state.
Chapter. The Veda disregards the other two states. With then is inadequate. With improper data, one cannot draw proper conclusions. Vedanta takes up all the data, the gross, subtle, and causal bodies, the three states of consciousness, and the three worlds of the waking, dream, and deep sleep. It deals with sleep and wakes up as a musician, then his personality must necessarily exist countless seeds, a vast emptiness, nothingness. Hence the Bible states God created the world out of nothing. The philosophy of the West is drawn primarily from the waking state. It takes little notice of the experience of the dream state and practically ignores the deep sleep state. The Western philosophers base their investigations and discoveries on the experience gained in the waking state. They try to solve the mystery of the universe using that alone. The data they work with then is inadequate. With improper data, one cannot draw proper conclusions. Vedanta takes up all the data, the gross, subtle, and causal bodies, the three states of consciousness, and the three worlds of the waking, dream, and deep sleep. It deals with all the necessary material available to reach the absolute reality, the state of pure consciousness. The consciousness in its absolute state is homogeneous, one and one alone. That is unknown to you. It assumes three known forms, the waking, dream, and deep sleep states. It functions through the gross, subtle, and causal bodies to forge the waker, dreamer, and deep sleeper. They are distinct and different from one another. The consciousness of the waking state thus becomes the waker. The waker pronounces the waking world to be substantial, real, set in order by its laws and regulations. The waker disregards the other two states, negates the dreamer and the dream world as insubstantial, a mere illusion. An athlete of the waking state may dream as an invalid, a cripple. He dismisses his dream experience as insignificant, meaningless. His verdict of the waking state is clear, emphatic to him. Likewise, the consciousness of the dream state, the dreamer swears by the dream world. The dreamer is equally emphatic, assertive that the dream world is substantial, real, set in its own laws. A dreamer may be an Olympic runner in the dream, though in the waking state he could be bedridden with a terminal disease. The dreamer also dismisses the waking state as insignificant, meaningless. His verdict of the dream state is clear, emphatic to him. Again, the consciousness of the sleeping state, the deep sleeper experiences nothingness and is blissfully ignorant of the waking and dream states. All that is gained or lost in these two states is of no significance, no value to the deep sleeper. He is steeped in ignorance.
So he's reiterating what we have talked about, um, and it's an important bifurcation. Now, if you recall, I mean, if you see from chapter 10 onwards, what are we doing? We are trying to uh, break down the different facets of your individuality. We started with the human composition, talking about the body, mind, intellect. That's level one. Thereafter, we elaborated a little, talked about the Panchakoshas. We talked about the three bodies in that sense. And now we are giving the concept of the waker, dreamer, and deep sleeper. All to give you a vocabulary, a way to look at this individual. Who is the individual? First of all, the individual is not. We have no vocabulary for it. We make a khichdi out of everything. Now, the individual is composed of these distinct facets. The physical body is distinct from the mind, is distinct from the intellect. The body has its various organs of perception and action. The mind has feelings, emotions, likes and dislikes, desires. The intellect has its thoughts, ideas, ways of thinking, ways of reasoning, to judge and decide. Likewise, there are the three states of consciousness. There are three distinct characters. There's the waker experiencing the waking world. There's the dreamer experiencing the dream world. There's the deep sleeper experiencing the deep sleep world. So now when you look at yourself and when you say I, you have the full vocabulary. You understand you are right now the waker talking about your mind. When you say I am feeling happy, who are you talking about? You're talking about the waker's mind that is feeling a certain emotion. So it's given you a way of understanding your individuality. The waker experiences the waking world, distinct and different from the dreamer experiencing the dream world, distinct and different from the deep sleeper experiencing the deep sleep world. First of all, in deep sleep, there is nothingness. There's no concept of waking. There's no concept of dreaming. There's nothingness. For the deep sleeper, while in deep sleep, there is no world. So there's no meaning, no significance of the dream world or the waking world to a deep sleeper. When you go into a dream world, the dreamer experiences the dream state, the dream world, thinking the dream world is real. The dreamer has a strong sense of reality of the dream world. If you tell a dreamer, listen, this is all a dream, there's actually a higher state. It's called the waking state. He'll think you're some heartless person. Tell a person in the dream state who's going through some kind of problem, stop thinking about all of this. Yeah, stop worrying about all of this. This is all unreal. It's a waking state. He'll think you're a silly fellow. Just like right now, if you go through some problem in your life and I tell you, what are you worrying about your problem? This is all temporal. This is all unreal. There's a fourth state. What will you tell me? Listen, enough of your gyan. Time for you to leave. Let me deal with my problem. So to a dreamer, the waking state has no meaning. For him, the dream state is the reality. Similarly, for a waker who has experienced the dream state, so the dream state is the first state. The deep sleep state is the first state. The dream state is the second state. The waking state is the third state of consciousness. It's a higher state, one that knows the other two states. The deep sleeper doesn't know the dreamer nor the waker. The dreamer knows the deep sleeper but does not know the waker. The waker knows the dreamer. The waker knows the deep sleeper. Means has some concept of it. As a waker, you're conscious of the fact that yes, you were dreaming earlier and have understood that that world was a fantasy. Similarly, you are conscious of the fact that you were in deep sleep. So awaker knows the dreamer, awaker knows the deep sleeper, but understands that the dream is not real. For him, the waking world is emphatic. For him, the waking world is real, has solidity, has meaning. So, what next? Do they pass the test of reality? For the waker, the waking world is real. For the dreamer, the dream world is real. And the deep sleeper is just in full sleep. What is real?
Now the question arises as to what is real? The waking or the dream or the deep sleep state? Reality is defined as that which existed in the past, which exists in the present, and will exist in the future. That which persists eternally is said to be real. Conversely, that which exists for a period of time and not before or after that period is considered unreal, false. Apply this definition to the above three states. None of them stands the test of reality. The waker and the waking world exist as long as the waking state of consciousness lasts. No sooner than you leave the waking state to enter either the dream or deep sleep, the waker and the waking world disappear. They exist only during the waking period, not before or after. The waker and the waking world are of no significance, no value to the dreamer and the deep sleeper. The waking state does not exist for them. They dismiss it as meaningless, with no pith or substance in it. Hence, the waker and the waking world cannot be real. It is false. Apply the same test to the dream and deep sleep states. The dreamer and the dream world, the deep sleeper and his world both fail the test of reality. Each of them exists only during the period of its state of consciousness, not before and after. Hence, the waker, dreamer, and deep sleeper and their three worlds are said to be false. But the consciousness exists in the waking, dream, and deep sleep states and beyond as well. That is your Supreme Self, appearing through the media of the gross, subtle, and basal bodies. When all the three bodies drop off, the consciousness remains in its immaculate state. The consciousness exists in all periods of time, stands the test of reality, and that is yourself within. You discover it in the core of your personality.
Either this sinks to you, or you think this is all concocted madness. Either of the two. Either you say, where have I landed up? What am I studying? See, it's like classical music, One who's attuned to it is enjoying it. And the rest of us, how boring, what is this? If you don't have the ear for classical music, if you don't have that taste for it, it'll be a burden. You'll be thinking, oh my God, how long will this last? So I don't know. I don't know whether this sounds like cuckoo to you or sounds like a reasonable chain of thought. But he's not asking you to agree with it. That's what is important. He's asking you to consider it. What is reality? We never think about it. What is real? What is this concept of reality? So he's giving a definition. He says, reality is that which persists at all times. Think about it. Is it a reasonable definition? Is it a reasonable definition of reality? That which exists at all times. Why? Because there are some things which. Does that mean that some things which don't exist, that things which don't exist at all times are not real? Does it mean that things which appear and disappear are not real? So it's a very strong qualification. It's a very strong qualification for reality, that which persists. Because on what basis are you saying, and the reason he has this bar, this qualification, this definition, on what basis are you saying that your experience in the dream, the dreamer's experience in the dream, is not real? On what basis, now that you've woken up, on what basis are you saying that what you were experiencing in the dream state was not real? On the very basis that now it doesn't exist. It was happening then for the dreamer, but now it doesn't exist. The dreamer can have the same logic. It's not happening now. What do you mean there's a higher state? What do you mean there's a waking state? Sounds like rubbish. So when you take this concept of reality, when you take this definition of reality, reality equals that which exists at all times, that which persists, you will appreciate that the waking state is real for the waker, but not for the dreamer, not for the deep sleeper. Means the waking state is not real. Does not pass the test of reality. The dream state fails the same test. It's true for the dreamer, but it's not for the waker, not for the deep sleeper. Neither of the three states, none of the three states of consciousness are real. These are the beautiful words of Sage Ashtavakra to Janaka. Janaka, who was dreaming, he woke up from a terrifying dream. He dreamt himself to be a beggar. Having woken up from the terrifying dream, he could not get the thought out of his head. What was that? We easily forget it. We have full apohanam. We have full forgetfulness of the dream. Janaka couldn't. Janaka wanted to understand. Am I the beggar now dreaming to be a king? Am I the beggar now dreaming to be a king? Or am I the king who was earlier dreaming of myself to be a beggar? It's a worthwhile question. Because this consciousness is so fluid. It's fluid. So which is real? Is that real? Is this real? And the sage Ashtavakra says, neither are real. Neither is real. At that point, you were the dreamer experiencing dream. Right now, you are the waker experiencing waking. The dream is real for the dreamer, the waking is real for the waker. But it's not essentially real. This is where the concept of Maya comes in. Maya means neither real nor unreal. Maya means illusion, neither real nor unreal. Why? Because one who is experiencing the illusion, for that person it is real. And for one who is over the illusion, or one who is not experiencing the illusion, it's not there. Neither real nor unreal. This waking world is neither real nor unreal. It is Maya. For the waker, it is real. For one who is not the waker, it is not real. All you need to do is gain a suspicion of this. Brings me to my previous point. All knowledge seeks to pacify the mind. All of these concepts and theories seek to pacify the mind. Because ultimately, the truth to any of this, to whatever I am saying right now, to whatever is written in this book, the truth has to be experienced. It has to be realized. It can't be discussed and engaged and debated beyond the point. You can't split hairs about this. There's no point. We're not interested in making scholars out of people who will win Vedantic debates. The idea is all of this to turn you inward, to gain a suspicion. Perhaps there is merit to this. Let me give it a shot. Vedanta is saying this is my destination. Now I have tried to find my way through life. I have tried to find my destination. I have tried innumerable ways. I have tried for 50 odd years. Now let me try Vedanta. That initial suspicion over a period of time will turn into a conviction. Over a period of time will turn into a complete realization. That's the process. But it starts with a suspicion. Maybe this is not all there is. Maybe this is just another state of consciousness, just another waking state. So Vedanta pronounces that beyond the waking, dream, and deep sleep lies consciousness, lies reality, lies unconditioned consciousness. And we'll conclude the class with this.
The waker goes through the waking state of consciousness as a particular person and declares, I am that person. Likewise, the dreamer goes through the dream state of the consciousness as a different person and declares, I am this person. So does the deep sleeper claim his experience of sleep. The I pervades the waking state, the same I persists in the dream state and does so in the deep sleep state. The I is the common factor in the three states of consciousness, the substratum of all experiences. It is your supreme self, the pure consciousness, the absolute reality.
So what is real? The waker is not real. The waker, including the waking body, the waking mind, the waking buddhi. The dreamer is not real. The deep sleeper is not real. But there is something that pervades, continues all three states. There's something that pervades through all three states. I was dreaming. I had a terrible dream. I had a great dream. I had sound sleep. I am awake. This term I you loosely throw around, and we flagged it off earlier as well. When you say I, what do you mean? The reason we have gone through the last 3 chapters talking about the human composition is simply to show you at different times you refer to these different entities as I. Sometimes you call the body I, sometimes you call the mind I, sometimes you call the intellect I, sometimes you call the waker I, sometimes you call the dreamer I, sometimes you call the deep sleeper I. Who are you calling? Who is this I? Because all of these are distinct and different. All of these are changing. So this entity I, which we throw around so easily, grasp onto that. It should be a question. I'm not concluding anything. So far we have only told you what is unreal, or rather what is not real. We haven't told you what is the reality, right? But there is something, there's one missing link in all of this. There's one thing we haven't addressed in all of this. There is something which seems to go through all these states of consciousness. There's something that seems to persist through the waking, dream, and deep sleep. There's something that seems to continue, appears to continue. And that is I. In fact, this I continues through this incarnation also. It will go into the next incarnation. I. In my last birth, I was. In my last birth, I was watching the Cricket World Cup. Whenever I watch a video of the 1983 World Cup, I always think, in my last birth, I was there in the stadium. This I persists. What is it? Tattvamasi. That's your Atman. That's the pure consciousness. To reach the I, to realize the I, you have to reach the fourth state. That I is beyond your body. That I is beyond your mind. The I is beyond your intellect. Chit Anand Rupaha. Shivoham. Shivoham. The Atma Shatakam, which we chant from time to time. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's negating everything the I is not and proclaiming with conviction, I am that consciousness. I am that Shiva. I am that absolute reality. I am the Supreme Self. The fourth state. What is the fourth state? The concept of the fourth state we'll discuss in the next class, and we'll continue this chapter. We'll conclude this discussion here and take up any quick questions.
Beautiful class, sir.
Anji.
Hari Om. Utsavji, so the I that was there in my last janam is the I or the conditioned I, like causal body plus the I?
Good question. Your first of all, the I is unconditioned. The I has nothing to do with the individual. The I plus vasanas is the individual. The I plus gunas, the I plus vasanas, the I plus the body is the individual. That's what we decided the discussion of the class with. The consciousness conditioned by the causal body is the deep sleeper. The consciousness conditioned by the subtle body is the dreamer. The consciousness conditioned by the gross body is the waker. The consciousness is the I. Conditioned by a body becomes the respective personality. Okay. Now, according to the theory of reincarnation, okay, according to the theory of reincarnation, death is nothing but a deep sleep. The end of prarabdha vasanas. And the remaining sanchita vasanas propel the next incarnation. So it's that same causal body, one may argue. It's the same causal body sprouting into a new gross body. Okay. So what continues through lifetimes is the causal body. The I is permanent. The I always was, the I always is, the I will always remain. What continues through lifetimes is the causal body, sprouting new gross bodies. That's reincarnation. When you dissolve the causal body completely, when you eliminate all vasanas, you burn away all your vasanas through sadhana, that's when I alone remains. That's when you merge with consciousness. You realize the I, the Atman. So again, I'm trying to explain this conceptually because we shouldn't be confused about these things. Just because we have understood it conceptually doesn't mean we have realized the I. But it's important to understand this conceptually. So in your next janma, you are the same causal body with a new gross body. Just as a man takes off his old clothes and puts on new clothes, similarly, the individual takes off a gross body and puts on a new gross body. So the causal body is going through new gross bodies. The I continues through all. The I is in all states. The I is in all incarnations. The I is there when there is manifestation. The I is there when there is no manifestation. So
And
to
this
answer
causal
your
body is
question,
same in all of us.
Hanji,
This causal body is same in all of us.
your causal body is distinct from my causal body. Your causal body causes your individuality. My causal body causes my individuality. Karana Sharira. That's why
Causal
literally
body is vasana. Causal body is vasana.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Sorry.
Your causal body is your vasanas, your set of vasanas.
So, what you meant was the causal body causes us to take rebirth, but the I is always there.
Indeed.
Okay.
राशि और मैं ये सोच रहे हैं ये सब जान के क्या होगा.
Sorry, what?
I'm just joking that Prachi and I am thinking that ये सब जान के क्या होगा. अभी तो ये लाइफ को का बात करते हैं.
No, no. I'm not.
Okay. Here we'll conclude and we'll see you again on Monday. So have a good week. Hari Om.